Okay, so let us continue our discussion regarding the effects of fire on various materials. So we stopped in wood, ito last time sa taong klase no. So karon is ipadayon nato siya until the very last part na pwede nato i-cover sa pang discussion today. So we have here the steel. In its usual form is a non-combustible. However, steel wool and filings can be ignited under certain conditions. In a burning building, structural steel may heat rapidly, lose its strength, and deform. Corrugated steel sheeting, usually galvanized or coated with asphalt compounds, is extensively used for siding and roofing. Some of the asphalt-coated materials will ignite, and the burning asphalt has a tendency to melt, rapidly spreading the fire. All sheet metal panels, siding roofs, and partitions tend to deform under the fire conditions. So, si steel, usually, dili magigya siya dali masunog, no? And it's usually just kanang malleable. But in cases na kung siya kanang corrugated siya, or kanang na mga filings kanang may say filings kaya yung mga ginagmay-gagmay nga mga steels. So, usually those steels are kanang used for kanang soldering or kanang for welding gani kanang for joining two metals together. So kana sila dali na sila ma-melt yung mga metal. And also those metals na ginagamit sa roofing and siding sa balay. So those are metals na gina-coat for gina-coat og asphalt. So kanang asphalt is dali ra pud na siya masunog no. So I think you are familiar with asphalt naman kanang atong ginakuan sa dalan di ba? So dili ra na siya masunog. So that's why steel can also cause fires. Now next, we have masonry. In general, brick, stone, and concrete are considered fire resistant. Under conditions of prolonged exposure to heat, may crack or spall or crumble if suddenly cooled by the water from a hose string. The surface of a heated masonry wall may crack or spall with mere explosive force and destructive effects on the wall. So, kanang mga bricks. So, I know you are already familiar with bricks, of course, stone and concrete. So, kaya na siya fire resistant, gila na siya, dili gila na siya kini makonsume sa fire, no? Hindi siya mahimong fuel, but kanang longer period siya nga ma-expose sa heat sa fire or may cause the bricks or stone or concretes to crack. So, magkakaroon siya ng crack. And then, kapag imo siyang i-introducean mo siya og water, no? Makuan siya kanang mabungkag. So, makuan siya mapino-pino siya. Now we have miscellaneous construction materials. In addition to the three most common building materials, there are a number of other materials that are used in all type of buildings. These type of materials are normally used for interior finishes, roofing, or decorative purposes. So, mga paint, mga latex, kanang varnish, yung mga pangkuan, kanang sa sa atok kanang pintura, siya. Now we have the hazardous material identification. In the year 1976, the U.S. Department of Defense, or DoD, used a hazard classification and identification system all its own for explosives and dangerous materials. After many years of study, the DoD implemented the present classification system based on a system recommended for international use by the United Nations Organization, or UNO. Below are the listings of all 9 UNO classes of dangerous materials. So class 1 explosives. Class 1 is divided into 4 divisions which indicate the type of hazard expected. So class division 1.1, class 1, mass detonating explosive comparable to quantity distance. So QD, class 7, and M, mass detonating, and M, designated items. Assigned to this class are principally blast hazards. They may be expected to mass detonate when a small portion is initiated by any means, such as fire, severe concussion, or impact pulse of an initiating agent. Then class division 1.2, non-mass detonating, fragment producing explosive. These items for which the principal hazard may be fragments toxicity or blast. In Class Division 1.3, it includes explosives that present a mass fire hazard. Items assigned to this class usually burn vigorously with little or no possible or extinguishing fires that have gained headway in storage situations. Explosions may normally are confined to pressure propagating shock waves or damaging blast pressures beyond the specified magazine distance. Then Class Division 1.4, it includes explosive with a moderate fire hazard but no blast hazard. Items assigned to this class primarily present the fire hazard producing no blast and virtually no fragmentation or toxic hazards beyond the normal fire hazard distance. And then Class 2, gases, compressed, liquefied, or dissolved under pressure. Class 3, flammable liquids. Class 4, flammable solids. Class 5, oxidizing substances and organic peroxides. Class 6, poisonous, toxic, and infectious substances. Class 7, radioactive substances. Class 8, corrosive. Class 9, miscellaneous dangerous substances. Substances which present a danger not covered by other classes. So, we are done with the So, next method na. So, these are the topics for Uli B. So we have the ventilation. It is a method used for clearing the building of smoke and gases, localized fire, and reduce smoke and forcible entry damage. So man siya kung giingon nga ventilation katong na ay horizontal, vertical, and diagonal ventilation para ma-avoid si backdraft. Dili magkaroon ng sudden introduction of oxygen sa area kung saan mayroong scarcity of oxygen or nag-starve na ang fire with oxygen. Next, exposure. It is an action taken by the firefighters to cover buildings or people themselves near the affected area or danger from fire. An exposure during firefighting is a structure or exposing its content that can be ignited by a fire in adjoining building or other exterior source. Next, rescue. Any action taken by the firefighters to remove occupants, persons from a burning building hazards to a safety place. So, rescue. So, kanang ginabuhat sa mga bumbero no nga gininday na trap pa nga mga tao sulod sa kanang building kung saan naay ka ng sunog, ilang pangkwaon, so that is rescue. Next, scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus sa mga sitong suot sa ato ang mga bombero ni og katong sa mga scuba divers to provide themselves oxygen nga ilang ginhawaon sulod sa building nga kanang kuana. So kapag nga na wala na oxygen kay gina-consume sa ato ang fire. So mo na kailangan nila og kanang breathing apparatus. And then overhaul, a complete and detailed check of the structures and materials involved in the fire to make sure that every spark and ember has been extinguished and to have an assurance against re-ignition. So, si overhaul, ginapahitabo na siya kapag makita na nila no, nga kanang napalong na, na-extinguish na ang kalayo. So, ilang i-double check kung ang mga kuan ba, ang mga materials ba, mga kahoy, mga sa kanang na palong na bigidet siya, wala ba nabiling na kanang mga kanang baga. Okay. Kung naay baga, di ba anak ko nga, naay possibility na magkuan siya, mag-rekindle ang fire. Tapos magsunod na po siya og usab. So, kailangan si overhaul. The next is salvage, an action taken by the firefighters in preventing excessive damage by fire, smoke, and water with the use of salvage cover or by removing materials out from the burning building. So, si salvage is kuan siya, kanang hinigtanggalon gud yung mga materials na. So usually, kanang si firefighters ang nagabuhat ani ilahang bit ang katong mga gamit or kanang cover nila o gina-remove nila itong mga materials from the burning building. So ilahang kuan, sprayhan ba nila og kanang mga tubig or kanang extinguishing agents para dili apil og kasunog tong mga butang sa sulod sa balay or ilahang kanang bitbiton. So especially kung ang kanang mga butang na naasunod sa building is kanang flammable po, so muna nga ilahang bitbiton palayo sa building, palayo sa burning nga building. Now we have the principles of structural firefighting. Okay, this principle will point out the main features of a good firefighting plan. Firefighting has been and always will be one of the main objectives of fire protection. A well-manned, well-equipped, and well-trained fire department provides a solid base upon which effective firefighting depends. This strategy and tactics used to suppress fire evolved from this base. So we have the structural firefighting, initial procedures. So una, sounding the alarm. The crew member who discovers or receives the fire alarm must sound the alarm promptly. So during kung ano na ay kanang sunog, na-report sa sunog, ila din nang patingugon ang alarm para mag-prepare dahil ang tanong ng mga bumbero to respond. The crewman who sounds the alarm must be sure to give the exact location of the fire. Information regarding the type of fire, the exact location may indicate the need of fast and immediate response. Si crewman, muna siya kung nagadawat og mga tawag. So, pag siya madawat na tawag na naay ka ng sunog, so yan nang patingugon ang katong alarm, and then siya din ang maghatag sa kung hadapit ang sunog, ang type sa sunog, so let's say isa pa, yan ang inon ang mga firefighters na palulong mo respond. Tapos napod na ka ng mga level na dapat magdali sila. Next is the firefighting procedure or strategy. So una, size up. The evaluation and observation of the fire scene on the following. So class of fire, sa pinakauna no, kung unsa nga materials ang nasunog. So syempre, kung unsa ang magdepende man na no, kung unsa imong gamiton na extinguishing agent, kung unsa imong pagpalong sa kuan kay. Kasi for example, ang iyahang kuan di ay ang iyahang combustible material is kanang mga mga gasolina. So, dili pwede nga mag-introduce ka ng motor kaya mag-spread lang muna siya ng mag-spread lang siya maayo instead na kanang mapalong. Next, the appropriate extinguishing agent to be used. So, ano to siya? Third, the appropriate method of attack. So, syempre, ilan ang panuhan kung saan nila pag-attack sa fire. Kaya, di na siya basta-basta na magkuha na ka, mag-boost ka ng tubig, mag-boost ka ng extinguishing agent. So, nagkana siya o kailangan nga consider. Next is how to prevent the extension of fire. So pag-prevent nga mudako ug maayo ang fire. Next, the required manpower and firefighting assignment. OB, attack, the method of action to gain immediate control to prevent or minimize the extension of fire exposure. So, na to siya, itong ilanang i-control ang fire. Now, methods of attack, we have the direct method and indirect method. And then ventilation types. So, again, the method of attack that is katong direct method is i-direct mo siya sa kanang sa fire na ang uban po is indirect kana ganing makita ninyo nga parang iwisi-wisi lang nila ang kanang kuan ang tubig. That's because of kanang sa kaning velocity of the wind. So dili pwede nga sugato nila ang kanang kalayo no so ilan ang ikuan sila nila ang tubig para ma-scatter tanan. So nana sa depende na sa ilahap yung plano. And then ventilation types, you have the vertical ventilation. So when you say vertical, katong kung nakatinog mo siya or nakababay kasi nakana Also horizontal ventilation, then mechanical force or forced ventilation, combination of vertical and horizontal, and the exposures, then extinguishment, an action or method performed by firefighters in putting out the fire by means of extinguishing agents such as water, chemicals, and foam. And then rescue, so ito naman na rescue ganina, overhaul, pull, and the salvage. Now, the following are the other strategy used in firefighting. So, una daw, ilocate to nimo ang fire. So, pag makita na nimo, sunod mo nang i-confine ang fire. So, yung second fire, dili nimo siya padakuon, diha lang nimo siya ipundo. And then, imo siyang i-extinguish ang fire. Then, exposures. In addition to the basic tactics, the following are also added: rescue, overhaul, ventilation, and salvage. Now, location. Locating the fire sounds like a simple matter in an open lumber yard while flames are reaching for the sky. It is a simple matter, but finding or locating a fire in a room in a cellar of a 3-story dormitory or building which is filled with dense smoke is not an easy task. So, dali lang ka makalocate sa fire kung ang imuhang nasunog na area is sa lang kabuok balay, Isa lang din siya nga magsunog, but what if ang sunog is kanang naa sa mga anda-anda nga balay. So let's say for example kanang nasunog nga, let's say for example kanang diri sa Tagum sa Big 8 na nga sunog dira room number ana. So lisod kaayo na siya pangitaon, it's because dili man gud na makita nimo sa ibabaw, labi na kung ang nasunog nga nasunog nga room is wala sa pinaka top no, naa lang sa tunga or naa sa ubos. Dili na mo siya basta-basta nga manotice dayon kung nagsugod ang fire, especially if nag-spread na siya sa ana nga level. The next is confinement. Confining the fire is next step in strategy. Judgment, skill, and experience must be used to the utmost to determine whether or not the fire is to be routine or a disaster. Confining the fire simply means to restrict its spread to its point of origin or at least to the area involved. So confinement again kana imong pugnan ba nga mukatag pa siya sa lahi nga area. And the next is extinguishment. Extinguishing the fire may take as little water as that used in a booster line, or it may take thousands of gallons played through heavy appliance. The decision rests upon the judgment, skill, training, and experience of the officer in charge. So, depende gid na siya no kung unsa ang ilahang kanang way nga ma-extinguish nila ang fire. So, it could be nga kanang ikuan nila, ginagmay lang kanang ikuan sa ba ilang kanang hato no, i-full force ba nila ang kuan ang kakusgon sa tubig o hinay lang ba? So, that depends sa skill, judgment, o training ni officer in charge. Then factors to be considered in extinguishment. The time of the day. The hour of the day can have a direct bearing on the life and fire hazards involved. Time also has a direct bearing on the speed of the response of firefighting and rescue vehicles. During hours of darkness, special lighting equipment may be needed. Night operations may require auxiliary firefighting personnel. So nga naman nga, gina-consider na to ang time of the day. It's because kung buntag na siya, especially kung init siya, no? So, udto. So, meaning, mas kusog ang kuan sa fire is because naa siya kanang aid sa kanang sun. Init siya. So, naay heat. Dili siya makuan. And if kanang ting-ulan pud siya. So, kapag ulan, ting-tugnaw, so, kuan siya. Sa weather na pala yun, no? So, time of the day, sa oras kung gabi, mas better ang gabi kay kanang bugnaw naman sa dili man na siya ngon init. And also kapag buntag is daghan pa og kanang vehicles na nagatravel sa dalan, so mas madugay gud na og abot ang ato ang fire truck, whereas sa gabi wala na kayo na mga nagabiyahe, wala na kaayoy traffic. But inig gabi kinahanglan pod nila og kanang extra nga kanang equipment nga mag-provide sa ilaha og kanang light no nga para makaibalo sila asa dapit ang area nga nasunog para maklaro nila. And then next is weather. Some of the weather factors that must be considered is the temperature, humidity, wind, and precipitation. Sa temperature, again, kung the more nga init ang temperature, the more nga mas dali mo katag ang kalayo kay naay ka ng aid sa heat. Kung bugnaw, so medyo siya, mas advantageous, no? And then humidity, so the more humid ang ato ang area, the more pod nga kusog ang ganang kalayo. And then wind and precipitation. So apil po na si wind and precipitation kay the more nga kanang kusog ang hangin, the more pod nga ma-fast ang spread sa ato ang fire. Especially ila pod na kailangan po na nila i-consider ang direction sa wind no kung saan nila pag-atake sa fire, dili na nila pwede sugaton nga padung po diri ang fire niya mo ana po sila og tubig. So kung asa paingon ang fire dito po na nila ikuan ang kanang tubig, dili man na siya pwede kay ang pagbuga ba yung tubig sa hose kay napod na siya hangin na ganang ginadala, so di na siya pwede. And also precipitation, so kanang inig na ulan, so mas better no kung yung tingsunog kay naay ulan kay makatabang man ang ulan no nga mabugnaw naman na siya kuan means of extinguishment kay ma-cool niya ang init. So kapag walay ulan init kaayo, dry kayo ang area, so mas maglisod no nga i-put out si fire or extinguish ang fire. Now the fire. Factors to be evaluated at the fire scene, so the extent of the fire or the intensity of the fire. its location in the building, kung aha siya nagsugod, or aha ang ihang na-cover na, the type of contents involved, so unsa ang mga materials na nakakause of fire, the life hazards, the fire conditions, and type of construction. Now, occupancy, determine the number of people that occupy the building, including the materials that are found in it. Also note the nature of the units occupying the building. So let's say, for example, dili siya residential building, kuan siya kanang commercial building siya. So dahil lahiog ka ng mga kuan, especially sa mall, lahiog ka ng mga materials ka na adin na. So, importante nga kahibalo muna daan si bumbero kung unsa ang naa didtoa para dili kabalo siya ba kung unsa nga materials ang pwede niya nga ma-encounter. Let's say for example, sa mall na ay pintura, na ay kining mga plastic, na ay kanang mga kuandra refill sa butin, daghan og kanang daghan siya ma-encounter dira. That's why na ay mga instances nga dugay man kaayo ni sila ng kuan nag-spray og kanang tubig sa mall na sunod na nagmaayo because kanangita pa sila sa blueprint, nga pa sila blueprint sa mall, unsa man ang kuan, unsa man ang kanang porma sa mall, unsa man ang kani nga building, kani nga side, unsa man ang naaani nga kuan, unsa man ang nag-occupy ani nga kaning stall. So ila pa nang tan-awon, tanuhan pa na nila kung saon nila pagsulod no, labi na og naay mga residents pa sa sulod. And then, kay dili man pud sila basta-basta gud nga mosulod no kay ila pud ba kinabuhi ang at risk. So mo na siya. Now we have the ventilation. It is a method used for clearing the building of smoke and gases, localize fire, and reduce smoke and possible entry damage. Now, types of ventilation. So, ano siya diri ano? Vertical. The method to establish vertical ventilation, it must be worked from top and down. So, straight to din siya. Ana, gili ng vertical, no? Heated gases and smoke rise to the highest point and if confined, will tend to mushroom or rise to the highest point of the building, exerting their heating effect on everything they touch. So, mushroom effect, kanang muana gud siya. Ana na siya, no? So, ang buhaton is kanang bangagan sa ibabaw para ang katong kuan, katong smoke, mahinay-hinay siya o gawa. So, dili ko na pwede nga dako kayo, tuklapon mo ang roof, diretso, dili ko na siya pwede. So, hinay na mo na siya og drill na makagawas ng mga smoke and gases sa ibabaw. And then cross or horizontal ventilation. So, pababag. If the smoke and gases have not reached the higher levels, cross ventilation can clear the building one floor at a time. So, windows are the easiest and generally most available for the common types of buildings, but the indiscriminate opening of windows and doors can defeat the purpose of ventilation. So, si cross ventilation pud no, if wala pa siya nagkaroon ng mushroom effect or wala pa gid sa kaog maayo no ang mga gas, so pwede pa siya nga pababag ang imuhang ventilation ng ginabuhat. So usually daw ginabuhat na siya sa bintana. So pero dili pud pwede nga i-open nimo og dako ang bintana kay lagi magkaroon ng backdraft. And then mechanical or forced ventilation, a process or method of ventilation whereby a device such as smoke ejector is utilized to remove faster excessive heat and then smoke in confined buildings. So mo ni siya nang kanang wala ko siyang exhaust nga imo siyang kuan ipasulod dito tapos iyahang kanang kuan suyupon niya ang katong smoke and kining gases nga nasa sulod para magawas siya kunain ana sa uban ilang buhaton is mag-drill sila ng gamay nga hole sa ibabaw, pasok nila to tapos maggawas na to siya, mag-ventilate na to siya or kanang sub. Say for example sa pultahan wala na nagabihan, suksok ng didtua tapos para makagawas na tong mga smoke. And factors to determine the location for the opening ventilation, location of intensity of fire, highest point on the roof, direction of wind, existing exposure, extent of fire, and obstruction. So steps in procedure for vertical ventilation. Check the condition of the roof support to make sure that they have been burned away or weakened to a point where there is possibility to collapse under your weight. Feeling the roof for hot spots helps you to determine if the fire has reached to the point to the cause weakening. So, ano siya katong ano kanang parang movie man ito about kanang kuan mga bumbero na inahang gikuan kang nagkamali sila ba na maggawa sana sila ng ventilation Kaso kanang humok naman kinundugay naman ba nga kanang nasunog gud ang building na, di ba? Anak ko nga kapag ang concrete kanang dugay na siya nga na-expose sa heat, tapos ma-introducean nimo siya og kanang tubig, it could be nga kanang makuan siya, mapulpog siya. So ang hitabo ning kat-kat mo sila sa ibabaw no, mga firefighters, kay mag-drill unta sila og kanang hole para magkaroon ng ventilation. Nya kay pag-drill nila kay nahugmak man dayon ang kanang kuan, ang kato roof. So natagak sila, nagkaroon kagid ng backdraft kay nagkalit raman og kanang kuan. Nagkalit raman og introduce ang oxygen sa sulod sa katong tunog. So nimbuto, so matadaghan sila nang namatay nga bumbero. Sa kailangan i-consider jud kung makaya pa ba sa roof ang imong lawas sa imong kabugaton, kung kaya pa ba sa imong roof nga mo kuan na ay mo patong dito sa iyaha, na ana i-check nimo ang kondisyon. Then plan a way of escape from the roof in case of emergency such as of roof collapse, have a lifeline especially on a thick roof to prevent falling. So kato siya no, wala man sila na kuan ato, wala sila na nabuhat nga kanang parang let's say for example ba og mag-collapse ang roof, at least naa sila kanang naka-connect sila, naka-harness sila, so wala man sila harness ato nga time, kay parang sila lang gid ang nauna nga nagkuan, nag-rescue ato, so wala pa gid sila tingon nga nitabang, so nag-collapse ang roof. So just in case, no, in case of emergency, pagplano na ka kung saan nimo pag-escape sa roof para di ka matagak, di ka mamatay sa sulod. And then use of any available openings that are part of the roof construction such as skylights or roof trap doors. And then make certain passageway for the smoke and heat extends down through the ceiling of the room. A hole in the roof is no use if there is no relief for gases, heat, and smoke in the room below. So kailangan katong hole nga imong gihimo mukan pud siya dito gid siya sa katong room gid no nga nasunog dili kay di ba nga ganin mo dito nga roof nilayo ra daay ang katong nasunog nga kwarto, so wala gyapon nay pulos kay dili man na mo kuan, dili man gyapon makagawas kung smoke sud ato nga kanang room. So kailangan itunong gid siya. That's why it's very important nga naay blueprint kay kahibalo si firefighter sa construction kung sa dagway sa building. Then work with the wind at your back, keeping in mind that heat, explosive characteristics, and toxic effects of escaping gas. Now, steps in the procedure for cross-horizontal ventilation. So, para na siya pababag na ventilation. Open the windows on the leeward side first, and then open the windows on the windward side. So, leeward, windward, I don't know, basta, ano siya, i-open mo siya nga panaan. And then after one floor is clear, ventilate the next floor in the same manner. So, kasi for example, nakapanda na siya. Tapos, nagpakatag-katag na ang kanang kuan. Kasi for example, kanang sa eskwelahan na sunog. So, if kanang kuan pa siya, padung pa mag-spread ang fire, no? So, may kanang floor-floor ang kanang kuan, ang kining eskwelahan. So, pwede nga, if makaya pa nimong ventilate katong lahi pa nga mga rooms, so i-ventilate nimo para at least dili na magkaroon ng dagdag pa nga smoke, no? If at all possible, avoid making openings below the level of the fire. If the opening is made at the same floor level as the fire, hose lines should be available for immediate use. Avoid ventilating a building in such a way that fire is withdrawn to any building part that is not involved. When making an opening, exercise great care to prevent the spread of fire to exposures and have hose lines available to protect the exposure. So, kailangan added kay hose line nga kanang bitbit. So, dili siya pwede nga kanang kuan ka, dili ka careful, no? Kay instead nga kanang makapahungaw ka sa smoke, baka mag-cause pa siya na kanang mo-spread ang fire. Kay syempre, comes with the smoke is the flammable gases. So, let's say for example, nag-drill ka sa kilid, tapos na ay another room nila. Ning adto dito ang flammable gases. So, pag madakop to siya sa fire dito so kato nga room will also be burned. So, mahimo na pud siyang another area for kanang another area nga nasunog. Okay, so that should be kanang considered no in horizontal ventilation. Now exposures, it is an action taken by the firefighters to cover buildings or people themselves near the affected area or danger from fire. An exposure during firefighting is a structure or exposing its contents that can be ignited by fire in adjoining building or other exterior source. Firefighters also use the term exposure hazard to identify a building that is not involved in a fire, but because of its condition, position, or contents can become a hazard. So let's say, for example, sa mall, nasunog siya, nagsugod ang sunog sa kaning sa katong sa grocery department, sa grocery, kay naay ka na ano, yun sa grocery, sa kanang electrical department, kay ay nag-spark no nga kanang kuan, nagkakon siya ng tunog. Tapad ato niya is kanang mga baligyaanan o kini pintura. Then after atong pintura, sa pikas food is kanang kuan po siya, kanang naay mga, naay pharmacy, ay kuan, ay kanang for mga laboratories, mga ano ba, mga ay mga sulfur, mga ana. Let's say, for example, mga ana. So, although wala pa na-appeal og sunog tong katong mga pikas na building, knowing nga katong duha ka kuan stall nga tapad niya is kanang kuan po siya no, very dangerous po kayo siya ug ma-expose sila sa fire kay pintura, which is very flammable man po na siya. And of course, katong na mga kuan nito, mga chemicals, mga chemicals. So, ang buhaton niya is iyahang i-expose, ihanang basaon o ihanang butangan og kanang extinguishing agent para dili na mo tapos dito ang kalayo. Is exposure hazard. And, factors that contribute ignition to exposure, direction and velocity of the wind. So, manat siya kung giingon no nga, hindi siyang tansyahon kung asa man padulong ang hangin kay dili pwede nga imuhang sugaton. And then the relative humidity of the atmosphere. The distance between the building, the most important single factor in the potential danger of an exposure hazard. Types of exposure. Fire exposure refers to the property exposed to fire, such as property directly across alleys or beside the fire building. Life exposures refers to the danger to the lives of the occupants of any building that is in line with the travel of dangerous fumes and gases thrown off by fire, as well as to the occupants of any building that is seriously exposed to the fire from the building on fire. All other firefighting actions, tactics stem from this basic strategy. Okay, so sa rescue, paulit-ulit sa mga tanong. So, ganyan ka hydraulic rescue tools. Hydraulic rescue tools are used by emergency rescue personnel to assist vehicle extraction or crash victims as well as other rescues from small spaces. These tools include cutters, spreaders, and rams. So, cutters, katong pangkat o mga metal. So ikat, tapos katong spreaders, kanang kapag mayupi ang kanang kuan, ang sakyanan. So, i-spread niya no para magkakuan, para makuha niya or ma-rescue niya ang katong victim. And also rams. They are popularly referred to in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and Australia as Jaws of Life, a trademark of Hale Products Incorporated. So, hydraulic rescue tools are powered by a hydraulic pump which can be hand or foot or engine powered or even built into the tool itself. So, katong kuan siya no, kung ibuka ang mga kuan, so that is hydraulic rescue tools. You can research that on Google if you want to picture, no? Kita ninyo siya kung isa siya. Cutter, the cutter is a hydraulic tool which is designed to cut through metal. So, anak ko na katang cut mga anak. Cut niya ang mga mata. So, spreader is a hydraulic tool designed with two arms which have a narrow tip. The tip of a tool can be inserted into a narrow gap between two vehicle panels, such as between two doors or between a door and a fender. When the tool is operated, the arms are open, drawing apart the metal skin. Spreaders are used to pop vehicle doors from their hinges. So, itong anak siya, tapos yung bukahon. Is a spreader. From the word itself na yun, spread. And spreader cutters, while the cutter or a spreader tool is designed for a particular application, a combination tool is also available which combines the cutting and spreading function of separate tools into a single tool. In operation, the tips of the spreader Cat's blades are wedged into a seam or gap, for example, around a vehicle door and device engage. So you can research it in Google sa mga dagway nila no. So that would be your assignment. Taanin nyo na sila sa dagway na nila. Power. The tool operates on the basis of hydraulic oil pressure of up to T20 bar, which must be provided from a power source. At present, there are three different means of generating the pressure. The most commonly used source is a separate power unit, which is small petrol engine connected to a hydraulic pump. The oil is pressurized in the pump and conveyed in a hose under pressure to the tool. So, kung siya ang nag-provide og kining power sa ato ang hydraulic tools. And next, we have the breathing apparatus, a device that provides the user with additional supply of air or breathing protection. A self-contained breathing apparatus or SCBA, sometimes referred to as a compressed air breathing apparatus or CABA, or simply breathing apparatus is a device from the rescue workers, firefighters. So, muna siyang katong gina-bit-bit nila nga tangke, muna ilang ko ano na sila yung makuhaan o ka ng oxygen. Kaya syempre, pag nasulod dito so wala na kami oxygen, kaya kuhaan na, gi-consume na sa fire, no, yun ang gigamit to kaning, no, to produce fire, wala na ng oxygen, no. So, kaya, usod, baka maka-inhale po dito o ganun na carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, so much better that you have a breathing apparatus. Now, there are three main components: a high-pressure tank, a pressure regulator, inhalation connection, itong mouthpiece, mouth mask, or face mask connected together and mounted to a carrying frame. So, mounted sa imuhang likod. So, na two kinds of CBA, the closed circuit and the open circuit. So, closed circuit, it is used when a longer duration supply of breathing gas is needed, such as mine rescue, in long tunnels and going through passages too narrow for a big open circuit air cylinder. Open circuit CBA will develop in most industrial breathing sets or rebreathers. And then open circuit, breathing sets are filled with filtered, compressed air, rather pure oxygen. So, siya pure. Typical open circuit systems have two regulators. A first stage reduces the pressure of air to allow it to be carried to the mask, and second stage regulator to reduce it even further to a level just above standard atmospheric pressure. This air is then fed to the mask via either a demand valve or activating only on inhalation. Or continuous positive pressure valve providing constant airflow to the mask. Okay, we will know what is overhaul, salvage. Then two categories of device in hose layout. So, natin mga hose appliances. Hose tools are a variety of tools used in conjunction with hose lines. Hose tools do not have water flowing through them. They are a variety of hose tools used in conjunction with hose lines. Some of the common ones are hose rollers, hose jacket, hose clamps, spanner, winches, hose blades, or ramps. So, this is also your assignment. So, pangtaanan nyo sa dagway ani nila, no? Dapat ay shafting block, hose strap, hose rope, and hose chain, and then universal thread adapter. So, pangtaanan nyo sa dagway ani. Universal thread adapter is a very useful tool in any fire vehicle. It can make a very quick connection to damaged or unusual size male hose connections. On one side of the adapter is a standard 2.5-inch male connection with national standard threads, hose jacket, okay. Barrel shape device that opens lengthwise through the center on a set of hinges. So, parang ana siya. It's a rubber lined to make it watertight when the jacket is clamped around the leaking portion. So, parang iyan na anaon ang katong nag-leak na portion. So, para dili siya mag-leak, no? And then hose clamp, a tool used to stop the flow of water in the fire hose without shutting off the source of water supply. So, clamp. So, use of hose clamp, stop the flow of water to a hose while a hose lay is being completed. Cut off the flow of water in a charge line. Replace a busted hose without shutting down the water supply. Extend hose line while shutting down the water supply from top hose. Advance a charge hose line upstairs. Apply the hose clamp to a section of hose approximately 6 feet from the coupling. Spanner wrench and hydrant wrenches. The spanner wrench is used to tighten leaking connections and to loosen connections are too tight to break with hands alone. Can be used as wedge for prying. It has a slot for filling nails and a flat surface for hammering. So this is also your assignment to look for images, no? Hydrant wrenches are used to open and close fire hydrants and to remove hydrant outlet caps. Naman ay cap ang kanang hydrants good, no? So, diyan mo i-connect tong hose. Adjustable hydrant wrench is made up of high-strength ductile steel with handle made of plated alloy steel. Universal spanner wrench is an all-purpose wrench featuring belt hook eye, gas cock, shut-off, and flaws. The folding pocket spanner is a compact folding spanner for rocket log or log coupling. So, nagdaghan pa dyan kaayo siya. So, please do read the following. Daghan pa siya, no? And we also have the ladder operation. So, the ladder is magamit na to siya in emergency situations, no? So, especially sa fire, during rescue. So, gamit na gamit si ladder. The type of ladder, ground ladder, aerial ladder. The ground ladders vary in sizes from 3.1 to 17 meters, which is 10 to 55 feet long. And it's being carried on a pumper or fire truck. So, na siya sa kilid sa fire truck or sa ibabaw sa fire truck. Form of ground ladders, wall, extension ladder, hook ladder or straight ladder, and attic ladder. So, again, an assignment, no, nga mangita mo kung sa dagway ani nila nga mga ladder. So, palihog na lang ko og basa ani nila kung saan sila mga ladder, tapos pangita mo og picture na mo ano nila, mo fit ani mga description nga naa dinhi. Because we are already running out of time. Then we also have the aerial ladders. So, underneath the bed ladder, the lower section of an extension ladder. Fly ladder, the top section of an extension ladder. So, extension ladder is kato galing na yan, ana. Kung siya. So, katong sa kinababaan, si bed to siya nga ladder. Sa kinaibabawan is the fly ladder. But the bottom end of a ladder. So, katong iyahang tiil. Tiil is the part of the ladder that touches the ground. So, katong tiil niya. Si bat is katong pinaka ang niya. Halyard, a roof cable used to raise the fly. Ito kung binabira-bira na ito nga para masaka siya. Pole or dog, the mechanism located at the end of the fly ladder that locks to the bed ladder. And then, rung, the cross member of a ladder that is used for climbing. So, iyang ang. Top or tip is the top part of the ladder. So, atong sa pinakaibabaw. Hook, parts of the ladder that is used to hook over a roof, peak, sills, or wall where the heel does not rest on a foundation. So, katong ay hook na siya yung anak dito nga idikit mo siya nga mukuan siya. And then stops made of metal or wood blocks used to prevent the fly of an extension ladder from extending out farther from the ladder. So, mga siya pang pugong siya nga di siya mo kuan sa kadiri lang gina siya taman, ang di ra siya taman. Then guides light metal strips of an extension ladder that guides the fly ladder while it is being raised or lowered. So, katong nagambira sa iyaha. So taanin nyo na siya kan sila guyan ni kanang nagkuan na sa ladder. And then type of ladder carries 1 man, 2 man, 4 man carry, and 6 man carry. So basahin nyo na siya, no? Ay, kasi magawa sa inyong exam. So I will try to recapitulate, no, kung unsa ang kanang mga gipang discuss na ko diri nga pinapaspas on Monday and also during the review. No, we don't have a lot of time. So I think that should be it. Thank you. Hmm.